Dr. Zwelling is a quadruple board certified physician. She graduated from Wellesley College and studied medicine at New York University, where she graduated at the top of her class. She arrived in Los Angeles in 1980, completed her residency in both internal medicine and emergency medicine, and did critical care and quality assurance utilization review certifications as well. She served in the community as an ER specialist for 6 years, previous to opening a primary care practice in Los Alamitos, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm not from California. I speak much too quickly. In 1987. She was widely recognized as a physician who would go to lengths to help her patients and navigate the extremely complex healthcare system that we have. And in 2004, she adopted concierge medicine in order to serve her patients well, all 4,000 of them, and gives them personalized care. It was a decision that proved to be the right one for her and her patients. And now Dr. Zwelling is going to present Who Owns Your Life?
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Hi. I'm Marcy. My patients call me Dr. Z because Zwelling is too much of a mouthful. And I always introduce myself as my patient's doctor because that is my life, that is who I am. And I'm here today to ask you a very important question. Who owns your life? Dr. Sewell, do you think you own your life? Yes. Dr. Strickland, do you own your life? Do you own your life? Yeah? Good. Well, I would like to suggest that my finger is not doing the walking right now. I need to change my slide. There we go. So, I would like to suggest that if you are concerned about meeting the performance standards of a corporate entity, you do not own your life. If you spend your day checking boxes and getting authorizations, you really don't own your life. And by the way, it says laughter is the best medicine, but Medicare only pays for chuckles, snickers, and giggles. If being in compliance with meaningful use is important to you, you don't own your life. And I love this one. Sorry, Oog, but you're out of compliance with the evolution protocols. And finally, if you give money to your congressman hoping he or she will make things better, you really don't own your life. I would like to address, though, however, at the end of this talk, how knowing a congressman can help, and indeed how we were able to delay ICD-10 by a year by knowing the right guy, but you got to know the right guy. How did we get here? Well, I think a brief walk through history is always important so I can lay the groundwork for how we can make this better. Obviously, if we don't know the problem, we can't create the solution. For years, the patient was totally removed from the decisions of healthcare, and that was because, quite frankly, in World War II, of course, wages were frozen, and if employers wanted to get the best of the best, and everybody wanted to get the best, the answer was to give them health care. So the employer became the purveyor of health care, and the patient really had little choice in their health care decisions. That kind of grew to become a PPO model, and many of you, if you're old enough, and Dr. Wax indicated we're not that old, really, but we've been around for a long time. And I was around when the first PPOs came into play, and I understood that, quite frankly, having first dollar coverage was a disaster. Let me give you a little background here on myself. I did go to Wellesley. I was an economics major, which actually allowed me the opportunity to to, I think, lay the groundwork for some of these solutions, because obviously every decision in life is economic. Everything is time and money. Everybody makes decisions by making choices given their given priorities. And I understand what a marketplace is. Hence, you'll see some of these conclusions. In any event, I knew I wanted to go to medical school, and I had the privilege of doing a thesis at Wellesley. Yes, Hillary went to Wellesley, but she's older than me, and we are not the same person. I guarantee you that. In any event, I was able to do a study. At the time, of course, President Nixon had laid out the wage and price controls. Some of you may be old enough to remember that. And the healthcare sector was specifically ostracized. It was kept under surveillance while all the other sectors of the economy were allowed to run free. And so I thought, I'll go look at that. I wonder what happens when a whole sector is regulated and everybody else gets to do what they want. But when I went to my local hospital, Newton Wellesley Hospital, and they gave me free reign of everything because we didn't have HIPAA back then, I went to the CFO and I said, so how much does it cost to give a shot of penicillin around here? He kind of looked at me and I said, you don't know, do you? He said no, because they didn't do cost accounting, of course. Everything was cost pass-through. I got some very harsh lessons in the economics of healthcare. But interestingly enough, I'm from Zanesville, Ohio, Appalachia. And I knew the people in my hometown, and I went back to their hospitals and I asked the same questions. I got the same answers, of course. They didn't do cost accounting. They had no idea what it cost to give a shot of penicillin. But I noticed that the cost of healthcare was very different in each of those two communities. And so I thought, maybe the question I should be asking is, what does determine the cost of healthcare in any demographic community? It may not surprise you to learn that the only variable, it did not matter. We could look at income, we could look at medical students, we could look at the area that the hospital was at, we could look at what they sold. The only thing that mattered, the number of doctors on call at the hospital, the number of doctors on staff. That predicated the cost of care. The more doctors, the greater the cost. Does that surprise anybody? Because obviously, of course, my mentor, Mr. Morrison, said he wasn't happy enough with that. I had to explain that. And I explained it thusly. In the healthcare marketplace, the doctor was the supplier and the demander of care. The patient came to our office and said, I don't feel good, help me. And we said, well, you need a little this and you need a little that. The hospital was our capital playground. We made no investment in the hospital, but we played with all their toys. And we got to bill. And at that time, there were neurosurgeons, for instance, that wanted a Hitachi CT scan, and some wanted a GE CT scan. And guess what? The hospital bought them both, because the doctors brought patients to the hospital. So everyone knew, and that study has been published, and I was the first to describe the industry of healthcare, the demand and supply of healthcare. We were at the core. We remain at the core. And so the key, of course, to the question, how do we change this paradigm today? It's us. We are it. So that is what the rest of my talk is going to be about, and how we can regain our profession, take it back, do the right things for our patients, and create a legitimate marketplace where the patient becomes informed. Because back then there was no internet. I'm pre-internet, I'm pre-cell phone, I'm pre-everything. But patients came to our office largely ignorant, not stupid, mind you, ignorant. They said, I have a stomach ache. They didn't know what the causes of stomach ache were. We laid it out for them, and then we told them what they needed. And of course, they would have insurance that would pay for it. So they had no skin in the game, as it were. That's where the changes need to be made. Since then, insurance, of course, has actually taken the microphone. Insurance agents in the insurance industry kind of owns the microphone. You see advertisements in the TV all over the place, right? Insurance company is assumed to be the gateway to care. It has been misdefined, however. Insurance is an actuarial bet. No one wants to use their insurance, or at least I hope you don't. No one wants to get sick. Right? Does anybody here want to reach into their back pocket and pull out their car insurance, their auto insurance? Of course not. No one wants to pull out their card and God forbid, have to use their house insurance because your house has been robbed or you've had a fire. Why is it that our patients are thrilled to pull out that health insurance card? It really doesn't make any sense, but what it is that's because insurance is a benefit. It's not really insurance. What the patient has purchased is a benefit, and a benefit is different from insurance. A benefit is something that we actually have an expectation of spending. So when you buy a benefit, if you buy, a weekend here at this lovely resort, you expect to spend it. So when patients buy the benefit health care, they expect to spend it, they want to spend it. Hence, we really have a misnomer. And in order to settle this out, I believe we need to separate out insurance from benefit. And you'll see my solution there as we work through this. One of the things that I find most fascinating is when the government built out the ACA. They thought that they were doing the people a favor. They thought everybody wanted an insurance card because they thought, as I've explained, that insurance was the gateway to care, that insurance was the access point. But remember, if you really want to buy insurance, it's because you have assets to protect. Poor people do not have as many assets to protect as somebody in this room. That's a fact. It's not a bad thing. But if you don't own a home, you don't have to buy insurance to protect it. If you don't own a car, you don't have to buy car insurance. And so, quite frankly, we provided a card for them with an opportunity to protect something that they didn't want to protect. And frankly, if you look at the studies, you know, and I think this is being borne out, that our patients found care, poor and rich. There were religious institutions that offered care. In California, in my hometown, there's the Department of Health Services, and we have huge hospital systems where everybody can go for free. Patients found their way around the system. They are not stupid. And I think one of the suppositions that the government purports is that patients are, because they're poor, they're not smart. That is absolutely not true. They're very smart. They've made some choices in their life. They may not make as much money as we do, but that's a choice. It's not a bad thing. It's a choice. They're not stupid, and they have the same rights as we do to make choices about their health care in their life. Being poor doesn't mean that you should have less expectation about the choices that the government or the society allows you. And in giving them this card, we actually took away their choices. Now they have a narrow network, no doctors. They pay a lot of money for this insurance, even if they have a subsidy from the government. This is very expensive, and they got nothing. They can't find a doctor. They got a copay that they can't afford. They got a deductible that they can't afford. They got a card that's worthless. They have a card that's worthless. I think that we have shown our patients the greatest disrespect. We've got to gain that respect back. We have to give them their lives back, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Finally, the golden rule. My father believes in the golden rule. He always told me the golden rule reigns supreme. And the golden rule in this case is he who hath the money rules. In this case, it's the insurance companies and the government. The financial institutions run the health care. If you look at the ACA, it is not a system about care, it's a financing system with little mini financing systems in it. The ACO will find a new way for doctors to join together, to have more regulation, to create a new financing system, to take more money out of the system. Nobody says anything about care. There's nothing in the ACA that guarantees care, and that is absolutely wrong. Because as I told you, we're the access point. It's us. Doctors are the access point. I love to tell patients, and I really feel this is true, we are the most privileged profession in the world. Privileged. We get to share our patients' lives. We are wonderfully educated with opportunities to make their day better. Let's do it. So as I said, in order to do this, the solution is to shift the paradigm back to doctors as the access point. I say it's very simple. First of all, I'd like everybody to go back to their office and answer your phone, hello, how can I help you? Not, what insurance do you have? Don't let insurance be an obstruction. In my office, and as Dr. Wax introduced me, I have a concierge practice, which means I work for my patients. It's wonderful. I still have to fill out some of the same forms, but quite frankly, I get to ask my patients, how can I help you today, Mrs. Smith? Insurance is totally irrelevant. Medi-Cal, Medicaid, cash, it doesn't matter. Everybody gets the same thing. Isn't that freedom? Isn't that I have the freedom to make good choices for my patients based on what they need, not what kind of regulation is going to step in the way? Isn't that what we went to medical school about? Isn't that what we stand for? Isn't it time we take back the profession and treat our patients with respect and with the opportunities that they deserve? I think so. And I don't take any insurance at all. And I actually sell privacy as part of my package, if you will, so that my patients know that nothing goes anywhere. I don't send a bill into Blue Cross Blue Shield, the government, nothing, so that all their records are absolutely right in my office. And when I get subpoenaed because somebody wants to know something about my patient, I tell the person on the other end I look great in orange, because I will not give them my patient's records. They are private, they belong with me, and whatever the patient wants to divulge is up to them. I will make a summary that the patient approves before it leaves my office. That is the kind of respect our patients deserve. And with, of course, the hacking of all medical records and the hacking of computer systems, I think that's a first step that medicine needs to take immediately, is to protect our patients. We took an oath. Secondly, we need to sell real insurance. We need to sell a catastrophic plan, a legitimate catastrophic plan. When I started my concierge practice, and of course I've been talking about this for a long time, I went to Blue Cross and I asked them, build me a wraparound. Build me an absolute basic, bare bones catastrophic plan, and my patients will pay for the rest. They said no. They said, Marcy, you understand our industry. That's not how we make money. I think it's important to lay out how insurance companies make money. They're bankers, they're brokers. They will find a way to meet their expenses. So whatever regulations the government gives them, they find a way to make that work. And actually, they love to raise the premium dollar. A high premium dollar for insurance companies means that they can then leverage that out several years. In fact, they've leveraged your life out several years, and they have borrowed against it, and they build beautiful buildings, and they make all kinds of beautiful things, but they don't do anything productive at all because they've passed the risk on to you. So they don't even take the risk anymore. Think about that. And they do not make money. They do not make money by denying your CT. That is a ruse. That is a ruse. They have the systems and the operations available to make ends meet, and they want a higher premium. The ACA was a blessing for them. These high premiums are wonderful. They are making money, heads over heels. Look at the stock market. Anthem Blue Cross is going to buy Cigna for $46 billion. Oh, let me write you a check, you know. I have $46 billion. I mean, let's get serious. They have tons of money, and it's cash. It's cash, because they don't make anything, they don't produce anything, they're not manufacturers, they are a bank. So once you understand that, you understand the difficulty that we have in getting this bare bones policy, because I said to them, what if you had so many policies you could own the marketplace? They didn't care, because they needed the premium to leverage, and a bare bones policy was not enough premium. So if we're going to keep the insurance companies and not let them revolt, we have to let them have a bare bones policy as one of many packages. And we have to allow them to sell a variety of products. So let's think out of the box. I hate that term, but it's what I could think of. What if we created a catastrophic opportunity with a benefit package as a separate opportunity? Many different kinds of benefit packages. You know, when patients go bankrupt from the, God forbid, from a medical illness, it's not the cost of care, it's the fact that they lost their job. You know that, right? So why don't we create opportunities where a patient can insure themselves against that? They have a heart attack, their catastrophic care takes care of that, and now they have a benefit, a cardiac benefit, that will give them $50,000, $100,000 towards their future, towards rehab, towards maintaining a family life, if they can't get a job right away, towards re-education, whatever it is they want to use it for. They don't have to go bankrupt. They can own their lives. They don't have to settle for sitting at home for the rest of their life and going on disability. Why don't we give our patients an opportunity to do that? Now, by giving insurance companies the opportunity to sell a variety of packages, we're not taking their structure away. We're giving them opportunities at lots of benefits that they can leverage in this way, because we're not going to stop that process. That process is out and running. So insurance companies are always going to be bankers, but we have to be able to make sure that they have the opportunity to make a living. Or, of course, they'll be the first to put this down. But I think there are wonderful opportunities to create, again, a catastrophic package, and you can separate that out from a benefit package. And, for instance, you could have diabetes benefits. You can have an AFLAC plan. But with that must come an HSA. The HSA will allow for all kinds of choices. And after all, freedom is choice. So among the first things we have to do is we have to give doctors in this country the opportunity to make their choice. I don't have anything bad to say about my Kaiser doctor friends. I don't have anything bad to say about anybody who practices medicine, as long as that's their choice. If that's how they want to practice, so be it. That's the nature of this country. Isn't that beautiful? They get to practice medicine the way they think they can execute their profession best. But I want them to let me do that too. Because we can perform best when we're in the atmosphere, in a place where we can perform and where we can give our patients what they need. Not where we feel dominated by someone else, and not where we're forced. So doctors that are forced to sell their practice to hospitals are ultimately unhappy because that wasn't their choice. So let's make sure that doctors have the choice of how and where they want to practice, and among those things are my choice. Similarly, choices in terms of insurance coverage, as I said, a catastrophic package with a very, very minimal copay, and what I call defined coverage. So Australia has this system. Medicare or an insurance company will pay a specific amount of money, known, published, for a given service. I'm going to have a gallbladder removed. How much does Medicare pay? Medicare will pay $500 to have my gallbladder removed, to the doctor, to maybe an extra $1,000 to the hospital. And then I pay the difference. And the doctor posts their prices. It's known beforehand. Everybody knows, just like you walk into a restaurant, you have a menu. You can choose a hamburger, you can choose a steak. Hospitals compete, doctors compete. If I think that I'm so good at taking out a gallbladder that I can charge $9,000, which one of my friends charged in Beverly Hills cash, so be it. If patients want to pay that, and they think that it's valuable, God bless them. I would suggest that their doors will close soon, but let them listen. You know, I don't buy Maseratis either, but somebody finds value in that. That's what this country's about. Economic marketplaces where choice. You earn your dollars, you get to spend them where you want. That's the basic of economics, and that's quite frankly human nature. If we buck human nature, we will never win. Patients want to spend their money where they want to. They want a doctor they can trust. If that doctor has created a market for himself where people think his doo-doo doesn't stink, so be it. But that's not my marketplace. I charge $2,000 a year. You can go down the street 20 miles at Newport Beach and they charge $5,000 a year. It's not my market. But I get the marketplace. If I charge $5,000 a year, no patient would come, because my patients are very middle-class people. And I elected to stay right where I was in Los Alamitos. My choice, My choice. I've been solicited to come to Beverly Hills, to everywhere. It is my choice to take care of my family of patients. That's because that's what I do. But you know what? You want to do something else? God bless you. But I have to be accountable for what I charge. So if I'm going to post a price over that $500 of $100, then I need to give an additional $100 worth of service. A good example. How many patients, women, would pay to know what their mammogram result was before they left the mammography suite? I ask my patients that. Everybody wants to know. Nobody wants to go home and sleep and not know. It's horrible. And then, of course, that letter always comes on Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And oh my God, you have to go back for another study. The radiologist went home. Nobody knows what the problem is, and the patient doesn't sleep for the whole weekend. Of course, I think that's very disrespectful. I think that's wrong. What if you were an imaging center and you said, you know what, I'm going to charge an extra $50, but you don't leave until you know the results? There would be a line. There would be a line. My husband was a pharmacist before he was a contractor, and he taught me something very important. If you're going to sell something, the first thing you must do is be a good listener. What does your patient want to buy? What is valuable to the patient? Not what box do you fill out, but what does that patient need to make their life better? I sell my patients a better day. It works. They leave my office feeling that they got quality care. Care because I listen to what they need to execute their life. And for every person, that's different, as it should be. Population-based healthcare is very expensive. It does not address that very principle of individualized days, individuals. And I would say that America was built on the principle of individuality and opportunity. People can expand their lives. The world is their oyster, but they can't do that if you're busy filling out forms and they're trying to be like their neighbor. Because quite frankly, what happens when we fill out forms? What happens when we all are alike? We dummy down. We dummy down. And everybody's a C student, right? That's not what we are. That's not who our patients are. That's not what they want to buy. HSAs are very important in this marketplace, and you can have any variety of HSAs. You'll hear soon from John Graham is coming. John Goodman, is coming, and he will demonstrate to you one of the bills that's going to go through Congress that we think will take traction and that will help repair the damage that the ACA has created. And this bill is about choice for patients. If you like your health care, they can keep their Obamacare. They can choose other things, but they can also choose HSAs. They will get tax relief from the government, and they can expand those HSAs in Roth-type IRAs. So Roth-type IRAs means that you put money in the account now, and you pay taxes on it, but you don't pay tax at the end, and you allow it to grow. So that our patients then can buy long-term care with their HSA, and of course I think we all have studied this long enough to know that patients should start their HSA at birth. It should be transferable among families, and it should be allowed to be left to your descendants after you die. So that money is yours to spend as you wish. You never lose that money. And then you create a marketplace. The marketplace, of course, is absolutely important. Before the ACA and community rating, where everybody paid the same thing, where the 20-year-old gentleman paid for the infertility care and has a health care premium that's ridiculous. Before that, we had pre-existing condition pools. So if you had a horrible pre-existing condition, you had a pool that you could buy health care from. But I believe that I've solved that problem by suggesting that a benefit plan. So if you know you have diabetes, you can't insure against diabetes. Think about that. You can't insure against a disease that you already have. Mammograms are not insurable. Preventive care is not insurable. You have to rethink some of this, but a mammogram is a preventive care. It's an opportunity to buy a benefit. It can be cash, and by the way, the cash cost of an mammogram in my community is $75. The cash price of an MRI, $400. Cash price chest x-ray, $35. Now, once patients know that, and this is very important, you allow them the opportunity to understand what they are buying. Imagine you're Mr. Smith. You went to the emergency room for some bronchitis. You got home, you got your bill, $35,000 for your one-day stay. Holy crap! Ridiculous. It's not worth $35,000. Everybody knows that. But Mr. Smith does not know that because we as doctors have not presented to the public the legitimate value of what we sell. And it's about time we put our big boy pants on and act like a business and understand your product and live up to what you're selling and post your price and deliver it. The patients think that they have to insure against $35,000 hospital visits. That's ridiculous, isn't it? A $5,000 Mohs, that's ridiculous. What is the real value? Well, the real value, and I have been to a hospital. I have had my knee operated on. I had laparoscopic surgery. $2,500. Now that still is probably too much money, but once I get the system going and we have competition, it'll be $1,500 soon. Think about it. It's about competition. Why is the price of eye surgery going down and down and down? It's plastic surgery. Obviously, that's a legitimate competitive marketplace, right? And the cost of all those things have gone down. The only thing that's gone up is the cost of insurable care. And I would like to suggest that the majority of costs in that insurance marketplace is the cost of the interlopers, the regulators, the people that come in and zap money out of the system. I think the next speaker is going to speak about ICD-10. That costs a fortune. What is the value of that? What value does that deliver to any patient? None. Zero. Absolutely zero. In fact, it's negative value because the data is horse crap. Why are we sitting here and allowing that to happen? We know better. We're good at what we do. Why do we want to go to work and deliver a product that we believe in and we could actually say, I'm proud to deliver this product for $50 or $100. Get your $50 and go home. I mean, seriously. And by the way, the Department of Health Services in Los Angeles County, and that is the county system, is going to start posting their prices, and they're going to start competing with us. The county is going to start competing with us because I know the director, and he believes in the system too. And again, a poor person does not deserve to wait in line in an emergency room in a crate. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. They stand there, and last night, by the way, I worked through a patient who had a kidney stone. No, they did not go to the hospital emergency room. We took care of it. I was not in my office, but my staff was able to give them medicine for nausea, some Zofran, some pain medicine, lots of fluids. He went home. I called him last night. I called him again today. He's doing fine. No ER visit. What was the cost of that visit for my patient? Zero. Prepaid, but zero, because I'm capable of doing that. Obviously, if they needed surgery, they'd have to go to the hospital. That is something different and is an insurable event. But I'm capable of doing that, and so are you. You can pick up the phone. You can talk to your patient. You can ask them how they're doing. Yes? It's not hard. Transparency is key here. And I would like to suggest that as of today, everyone in this room go home and post your price. Everybody here. Demand that your community do it. I did it. We now have imaging centers that compete. Better quality, lower price. Isn't that what we tried to do with the ACA? And didn't we not do that? Oh my goodness. The key sound bites to take home. Choice. Absolutely important. Patient must own their lives and be empowered. And we sell a very trusted relationship. I would like to suggest to you that the core and the basis of everything that we do well is a patient-doctor relationship. And the sanctity of that relationship should not be impugned by anybody the government, an insurance company, or anybody. That has value in and of itself. And it's okay to sell that value because you've spent the time to create that relationship. And the patient loves that because they do understand the value. I would like to suggest that it's so important that we look inside ourselves as doctors, as the key point in this this transition, because there will be a transition. We're the key. We are the key. We need to own it. It's time to get off our rear ends and get this done, guys. And Dr. Gilchrist, thank you very much for your talk. I love what Colorado's doing. And a story. You guys know that I'm from Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, everything is about looking good. Looking good, feeling great. It's on my wall in my office. And there's nothing like a bad hair day to destroy your day. So I spent the time and money to go to a wonderful salon. I sat next to Julia Roberts. She was having her hair done. It was really kind of cool. I sat there, paid a lot of money, watched the stylist dye my hair burnished blonde. Oh my God. Then she put some kind of a rinse on it, and the rinse made my hair sticky. And then she decided to cut my hair in a bob with bangs. Oh, I looked awful. I went home so angry. But then I remembered, I sat there. I let her do that to me. We are sitting here. We're letting them do that to us. Our voice, a single voice, can be louder than a crowd. And we can create a single voice, and we can create a transition to a better day in healthcare. Because if we don't, we're in for a very bad haircut. So I thank you very much, and I'd like to finally show you who really owns my life. This is Lolita. I love Lolita. Lolita is a Maine Coon cat, and she has something about her. She can read human beings. She's very smart. She always knows how to make my day better. Look at that face. Don't you love it? Thank you. Shall we sit down?
Dr. Zwelling, would you join me at the table to answer some questions? Again, for those of you participating here on site in Keystone, you're welcome to come up to the microphone, and we'd be happy to answer questions for you. If there's anybody at home, you can submit them through the website.
Thank you.
And this is Dr. Judy Thompson, who is one of the conference organizers as well for the Summit at the Summit as part of letmydoctorpractice.org. Thank you for joining us again. So let me play devil's advocate here.
Of course.
I'm in private practice. I've had the same thoughts that you've had. Patients first. Patients need to be the be-all and end-all. And unfortunately, unless they're part of the payment system, they're not, because anybody else who's paying is calling the tune, whether it's an insurance company or a third party of any sort or the government. So you have to dance to that tune and try to help the patient dance to that tune, and they don't want to dance, and maybe you don't want to dance as well. So in New Jersey, there's been a lot of issues where the New Jersey Blue Cross Blue Shield used to sell 140 different plans of all different sorts. So as of this past year, because of the ACA, they've narrowed the 140 with choices to 14 in 3 narrow bands, as I'm sure you've seen and understand, and can't accept, can't participate with, can't spend the time necessary with the patient, and can't go through all the legwork that it takes. How can the doctors here, as well as the doctors that are listening online, as well as patients, how can we move forward to your model? If somebody has still has workplace insurance, which the government created and the government is now taking away over time, how can you help them, because they have this either a plan through work or a plan through the government where you have to jump through hoops to do things? Like, for example, in our practice, I see all kinds of patients and they want to come in with their auto accidents. But unfortunately in New Jersey, it's brutal. You can't spend time with people because it's not reimbursable. And if you need an MRI, God forbid, of a knee, you can't possibly dance fast enough, hard enough to get it. So it's impossible for us to do good medicine at that point. So sorry to go on and on, but I wanted to make the point. What are how can you help the patient who says, doctor, I'd be glad to pay you, but I have this big insurance thing, conglomerate government thing, and I want a referral to a specialist in that network, or I want a pre-cert or a prior authorization or some other nonsense insurance work that has become thrust upon physicians?
So great question, because that's what I do every day, because my patients have insurance, and I have to do that. So first of all, let's deal with authorizations. Do I do them? Yes. Do I hate it? Yes. I don't do boxes. I hate boxes. And I usually end up calling the insurance company, giving them an interesting conversation, but I usually get it authorized. Why? Because most doctors do the right things for the right reasons. In fact, those things are just being obstructive. They're nonsense. They want you to not do it. They want you to sit back and be frustrated. So, and because I have the time, now remember, my structure is different. I get up at 6:30 in the morning and I read the paper. Yeah, I have time to read the paper. I can exchange the news with my patients. I can answer all my emails from the night before that I haven't answered. I get to the office between 8:30 and 9. I start seeing patients at 9. A physical usually is my first patient. That's a 90-minute visit, minimum. And what do we mean by a physical? Well, I already know what medicines they're on, or at least I should, right? So my physical starts out with, how's your day? How can we make it better? What's happened since last year that might deter your good health? And what do we need to change? How's the family? Because I know all their families. What's going on? I get great stories. And I know my patients. I recognize their voice on the phone. So starting from ground zero, I have the time to articulate those things better. My staff, I have an excellent staff, and they know why they come to work. I've empowered them to do their job, to take care of patients, and to not be intimidated, shall we say, by the other end. And so we march forward. We fill out the forms that we must do. Now, when it comes to referrals, I give choice to my patients because it is worth a choice. So indeed, you may go to your narrow network, and this is the neurosurgeon in that narrow network that you've chosen. He happens to be a schmuck, I know that, and I tell the patient, I tell them that. I've worked with most of the doctors in my community, and I know them well. And I say to them, I'm choosing Dr. Jones for you, and here is why. So I give them a reason to perhaps want to spend money to see an out-of-network doctor. And of course, before the patient ever gets there, I have called that doctor. Hi, Joe, it's Marcy. I'm sending you a new patient. Here's her problem, specifically the very question you need to answer. Not, you don't have to take a whole new history and physical. I've done that for you. I've got it in your hands. You just need to answer that question, so the surgeon's job is limited to surgery. And can you give my patient a really good cash price? Absolutely. Why? Because the patient comes better equipped. He loves seeing my patients because he can do his job. He doesn't have to fill out the forms. And I tell him, don't fill out the forms, whatever you need, I'll take care of it, just let me know. Buzz me back, email me, text me, whatever. We'll get it done together, and we do it together. So my patients get seen that day, even if
your staff gets them an appointment.
Well, they get an appointment, or I call ahead and say, Joe, my patient needs to be seen now. What are you doing? Where are you? How do I get him over there? And my doctor friends know that if they ask what insurance the patient has, they don't see the patients again. And secondly, they know if they don't see the patient in a timely fashion, they don't see my patients. And my patients are great people. They're lovely people. And they walk in and they say, hi, I'm Martha, and I'm here because my hip hurts, and Dr. Zwelling thinks you're the best person to do my hip, and here's why, and tell me what you're going to get. And they love it. So they go into the hospital. They have their operation. I follow them. I follow all my patients. But similarly, I tell the surgeon, you don't want to come in, I'll take over. So I take over their post-op care too. So it's easier for me. It really is. I go to their operation sometimes. I see what's being done. This is what we were intended to do, wasn't it? to take care of patients.
If I may interject, that you're saying to continue with human continuity, that is to say person to person, instead of electronic continuity, which the government at large thinks that they can do.
Dr.
That if they connect everything, that it doesn't matter if they see you, they can see somebody at a minute clinic or something.
Sure, as long as I have a computer thing, it doesn't tell me.
But how in the world, I mean, if somebody walks into your office as a new patient, and they bring a paper chart with you, you might say, hey, I'm going to take an hour, we're going to sit down, we're going to review this. Now, if you're only being paid for 15 minutes, and it's an insurance patient per se, not that you would take that at this point, and they come in with a hard drive and saying, here's 20 years on this hard drive. There is no way in 15 minutes you can be responsible for the 20 years on that USB card.
You're right. So, and I get that, especially Kaiser has these records. Oh my God. Have you ever looked at a Kaiser record? Oh my God, 2,000 pages. So, but I actually, on the weekends, I will go in and I read these old records, and you'd be surprised what I find that was missed. I have a patient from the Mayo Clinic. They missed hemochromatosis. Pretty important, huh? Had infiltration in her liver, an MRI with positive infiltration, a ferritin of 1,400 missed by the Mayo Clinic because I read her record. So you're absolutely right. In fact, I will confess to you that I started what we call Healthy LA in Los Angeles. Healthy LA was the first Rio. I believe in records. I believe in data, good data, legitimate data. I think patients should have data, should be able to present their data at the point of service. I don't want...
Who should the data belong to, and who should hold the data?
The patient owns the data. And here's where we went wrong. No one would cooperate with us to create systems that talk to one another. So instead of having a system where there was data at the point of service, on the contrary, there was no data at the point of service. There was lots of data sitting in the government. The government has a lot of data, meaningless data, bullshit, if you don't mind my saying so. Truly, they have a bunch of codes, and they think that those codes represent your patients. You know, with this ICD-10 thing, I had an interesting experience.
Already, and it's coming to be.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
been put off and put off and put off, and finally it's coming to be.
Yes, so I was talking to AHIMA. They're the national IT people who have invested a lot in ICD-10. They make a lot of money. They're a wonderful consultant, and they've paid a lot of representatives in Congress to make sure that follows through. And so I asked them, do you really think this code represents my patient? Do you really think that this code? And they said yes. And I said, well, you're wrong. It does not. And if you anticipate using this code for billing purposes and research purposes, we're doomed. The epidemiological data that we have today is already horrible. You filled out coroner reports, right? Have you ever tried to get the patient with pulmonary fibrosis buried? The coroner will not accept that diagnosis. Seriously, the coroner will only accept certain diagnoses for reason of death, and you have to answer to the coroner or they will not bury the patient.
And now you have to do it electronically. You can't fill out a paper form
exactly.
anymore. You get
so
an email when your
is that
patient
good
dies.
data? Is that good data? Are we legitimately describing the health of our patients? Absolutely not. So yes, and I think that what will eventually happen, given the Epics and the Cerners and the big systems that obviously don't address our concerns and are not good communication systems. They zap everything out of us, and then doctors don't talk anymore. I would advise you to pick up the phone, call your colleagues. It's really quite interesting. They will teach you something. Every day I learn something from my colleague. Marcy, did you think of this? No, I didn't think of that. Well, you should think of this. I'm going to look at this when I see your patient. Great. I said, tell me about that. And they will spend the time to explain it to me. And great, now I've got another learning piece. I'm like, it is quite wonderful. We've really got a lot of smart colleagues out there. We've got a lot to share. Let's share it. Call them up. Ask for their help. Give them the help, and I get calls for patients from doctors who want a consult, a side consult. Marcy, I got this patient, what do I do? I'm happy to share. So we have to take that collegial attitude, I think, in order to move this forward. And again, we have to own our profession. I mean, seriously, we've been commoditized to death. Our patients have been commoditized. I'm tired of being led around by a leash. I don't think my patients want to be, they deserve better. It's a horrible system today. We spend time doing nonsense when we have so much to offer and patients' lives. Somebody's sitting in that chair and they need our help. They deserve our help. They deserve the respect of our knowledge and our expertise, and we need to be able to deliver. I firmly believe that. And it makes for a good day for us too. There's nothing better than a thank you from a patient, right?
That's true.
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree with you. That's the highlight of our day is a smile and a thank you from the patient. I want to begin by saying something that I believe in. I also believe by saying this that I'm preaching to the choir, but I think that it should be said. And that is that I don't think that the Affordable Care Act was ever intended to do anything for any patient at all. I think that it was intended to be a victory claim. And if one listens to the achievements that they promulgate, one will hear victory claim, victory claim, victory claim. There are no claims that I have heard, and I could be mistaken, that validate a healthcare service provided to a patient. So when we listen to them say, we've done this for so-and-so or so-and-so, I challenge that premise. What you have done is made a victory claim. So, again, preaching to the choir, I'll move away from that. My question throughout the conference to all of you all who are bringing your story to us is, when we go home, what would you suggest our next step would be? And I want to carry that question a little bit further. I'd like to make my prices transparent. And my cash pay prices are not where a patient can go online. That'd be easy enough next step to take. But I'm wondering what to do with my existing third-party payer contracts and transparency. What's your experience there?
So what I did, this was now 14 years ago, when no one had heard of concierge medicine, is I had evenings with Marcy. Now, an evening with Marcy is a lot of fun. We had wine, we had cheese, and so the first thing I did is I explained the process. And I told patients they had a choice, they absolutely had a choice. They could join my practice or not. And if they didn't, I would still take care of them until that particular medical problem was resolved, however long that took. So, and then I would find them another doctor. So I never left any of my patients high.
So at that time, you were departing from third-party payer contracts?
And I sent them all a letter, and I said no more.
And was it all at once? Because some people feel they want to make that jump, and others want to say, well, first I'm going to take the one that's most problematic for me, or the most work for me, or the least payer.
Indeed, and I think either way, but I think the best way is to jump, and you will be surprised. My practice was filled at time zero. Your patients love you. They want to stay with you. And again, if you price it right, and I think I did, and at the same time, I will again tell you, my patients are not rich. I do have rich and famous patients in my practice. I do see patients from all over the world. And my rich and famous patients usually ask me to kind of decipher what their doctor said, because they're still going to their Beverly Hills guy. He's still charging them an arm and a leg, and he tells me, should I buy this? And I go, oh, not again. Okay, so, we go through this time, but they actually trust me because they know I'm not after their money. I'm not after anything except their good, better day, if you will. And to that end, they trust me to answer those questions for them. But I think that, don't underestimate the relationships that you have with these people. You save their lives. They trust you. They want you. They need you. And I'm not saying that you take advantage of any patient, but I think that that's a legitimate opportunity to take the jump, and you'll be surprised. I have too many patients in my practice now, and if I had the opportunity, I'd charge more, except I can't do that because of the people that I have. I charge more and see fewer patients. So my day, by the way, is not over until midnight or 1 o'clock when I go home, as you've seen many of my emails. My patients expect calls up to 10 o'clock at night unless they tell me not to call. And they can call me at any time. And at 11 o'clock, the phone will ring. Dr. Zwelling, are you still at the office? Oh, yes. And you know what? It takes 2 minutes to answer that question. And they sleep better. So what's the big deal? I mean, really, let's get serious. let's get serious. Most of your patients have questions. They have relatively small issues that really are not this big thing that you can really charge an insurance company for.
I think the big deal is an alternative in a different perspective, which is something that we've been talking about. Many physicians in the country right now are bogged down and exhausted with bureaucracy.
Yes.
And for reasons of their own, may or may not believe that they have the option to turn away from their bureaucracy. Some can jump, some can migrate slowly.
But Judith, in answer to your question, what to do when you go home,
Okay.
start to educate yourself and your doctor colleagues about the opportunities that were good for you. Everybody's community is different, and every concierge practice is different, so I want to make it clear, nobody has to do it my way. There are many ways. Call me on the phone. I help anybody for free. I don't have a business. My father thinks that's ridiculous. You should sell this. It's valuable. I will not do that. You are my colleagues. I will help you do your job any way I can. And let's work together. There are opportunities. I can tell you people who do sell the kind of service that you're looking for. But I would suggest to everybody that, first of all, you take down my email address. I'm going to bring some index cards tomorrow, and I want your address and your name, and I'm going to keep in contact with you. And I think that what we need to do is we need to strategize as a team.
We agree.
And I would like for us to actually, at the last day, vote on the things that we want to do and how we want to strategize this so we're all on the same page.
I nominate
moving
Marcy.
forward. And I will do that, and we're going to go back to Washington. My story about Washington, I think, is important, and let me just tell you how this happened. We met in Washington under the dome. Congressman Pete Sessions is my friend. I'm his doctor, and we talk almost every week at least, if not every night. So he's my very good friend, and he operates a little bit differently. He's a Marcy in Congress. The politics kind of interferes with his ability to do the right thing. He's actually responsible with John Gill for the Texas amendment to the Constitution for malpractice insurance. So he articulated that. And he's not a doctor, but he likes doctors, and he believes in what we believe in. So he, of course, he gives me a job and, bring in these doctors, and we took 65 doctors. We sat under the dome. That was kind of cool. We brought in 18 different congressmen. They came to us, not their staff, the congressmen. They listened to us, and I told them, we don't do boxes, and we don't work for you. We do not work for you. Don't anticipate it. Don't ask for it. It ain't going to happen. We want to be able to do our job better. That is what this is all about, right? Of course. So they actually listened to us a little bit. As a result of that, the group, of course, met, and we actually voted on the thing that bothered us the most. And the group voted ICD-10 was the biggest, most horrible thing immediately. So with that, my job as the chair was to make sure it happened. So I would call Pete, and he would talk to me about every day. Pete, what are we doing? How do I do this? What do we need to do? Oh my God, it's coming down, it's coming down. We need to do something. And so he finally said to me, Marcy, shut up. I know how to do my job. I have never not done my job. Let me do my job.
Well, it's funny because you told him that first, and now he's telling you that.
Exactly.
Wow, mutual respect.
Exactly, mutual respect. So what happened was, indeed, he had a plan. And that year, in March, I went back to the NRCC dinner. Pete, by the way, is responsible for the shift in Congress. He was head of the National Republican Conference Committee when they got all the seats back. So he actually does know how to make a case. And he's actually fearless. So anyway, he created a bill, and I heard about the bill when I landed it was March 26th, because the Congress people were whispering they weren't happy. There was a bill, they weren't going to really get to articulate about it, but it was about ICD-10. And the bill basically delayed ICD-10 and it delayed SGR. And the bill was done by a voice vote in the middle of the night. That's the truth. It was absolutely illicit. It was horrible if you didn't want that to happen. And when I landed on the way home, I got to watch the Senate do the same thing. He had actually gone to Harry Reid, told them the problem. Harry Reid had agreed and made it happen on the Senate side, and we had a delay of 1 year. From that point, I have an X on my back. The hospital association accuses me of wasting billions of dollars. I didn't waste a cent. For some reason, they think they're going to make more money. AHIMA blames me because, of course, they think they have this investment. But their investment is stupid. It's awful. It just zaps money out of the system. An investment in air. It's ridiculous. It's like Enron. Get rid of them. They don't deserve to have that investment because it's worthless for our patients. And indeed, what happened this year is, of course, because of the X on our back, they were waiting for us. But we were able to articulate a negotiation with CMS. That was Pete Sessions, and I met with them in February, and then Pete met with them. And Pete articulated this transition, which I will tell you is not what we wanted. It's not good. We get that, but it was that or nothing. Because, and I'll give you names. Fred Upton sits on Energy and Commerce. He's the chairman. He said, "Don't even come to me. I'm not interested. We're not doing a delay. End of case. I'm not interested in hearing you." Wow. I had the Michigan State Medical Society go in and try to convince him he wasn't to be cajoled. These congressmen have been paid large amounts of money by huge vendors, and you can go online and see that. And you know, I don't have that kind of money. We don't have that kind of money. We just plead our case. So this is what we got. We hope that we never have to use the safety net, that the system will work. And if it doesn't, then we have a safety net and I told you so, but that's the best we could do. We're going to meet again, and we're going to I hope everybody in this room will come and sit and tell Congress what you want to happen. This is about you. And we need to know the right person, and that's part of the problem, is that your local congressperson doesn't have a lot of power to change things. So we need to put our time and energy where we can get something done. We need to do it together. We need to have a timeline. We need to have an expectation, and we need to meet that expectation, and we don't rest until it's done. I'm not sleeping until my patient owns their life again, I can tell you that.
Well, we thank you. We appreciate your enthusiasm and your knowledge and experience and leadership, and I think I'm going to hold you to it, but I bet I'll be chasing you and not leading you.
Can you leave us with your contact information in the last minute that we've got?
Absolutely. Cell phone, 562-900-2650. You can text me or call me. I answer every phone call all night long. Not a problem. I can go right back to sleep. I have that skill. Not a problem. My email is Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, @choicecare.md. Similarly, I answer every email. If you do not hear back from me, then send a carrier pigeon, but I answer everyone. Everyone. And what I'd like to do is really get in touch with your marketplace and give you an empowerment to write op-ed pieces and to get on TV and to start to educate the public. Because you know what's sad? Our patients don't know about this opportunity. I mean, that's the sad thing. Let's educate the patients, because in the end, when our patients demand it, it will happen.
Don't answer the phone in your office. Hello, what insurance do you have? It's hello, can I help you?
Yes, isn't that our job? Hello, Dr. Zwelling, how can I help you? That's really the message. That is who we are. And that's the image that I want you to take back home with you, and the opportunity that I think sits before us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.